I never imagined I'd discover my sister's fate 11 years later while treasure hunting in the woods. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a sun-soaked Saturday. A golden day turned to ash as the leaves whispered secrets, brushing against my trembling hands. I wandered deeper into the thicket, a determined heart and a heavy suspicion that something lay hidden within the earthy depths. That day in the woods, memories flooded back like a raging tide. My sisters, Claire and Sophie, laughed under a sunlit sky. Seriously, sunshine had never looked so pure. Their laughter echoed, but now it bounced off the trees, making it bittersweet. I lost them that summer. I lost a piece of my heart. 11 years, and I thought I had buried the pain. But here I was, searching, that I stumbled upon an old tree. Its bark was rough and gnarled, like the stories it could tell. As I approached, a strange feeling prickled down my spine. The air thickened, filled with a mysterious energy. My heart raced as I brushed aside the ferns. Perhaps it was only the thrill of adventure or something deeper tugging at me. Beneath the roots, I spotted a glimmer. My breath hitched. A locket. Honestly, how could this be? I recognized it immediately. Claire's locket. Tears pricked my eyes. Every memory surged back. The day Sophie told her she could keep it close, her face beaming, full of innocence. Anguish twisted my gut. How did this impossibly end up here? My hands trembled as I grasped the cold metal, the sensation sending a jolt through me like electricity. That I felt the forest around me grow silent, swallowing the noise of rustling leaves, a foreboding hush. What did it all mean? The chilling air whispered of secrets long buried. Was it a sign? A shadow loomed over my thoughts. Maybe, just maybe, they weren't gone forever. Suddenly, the ground shifted underfoot. My heart raced. I scrambled back, breathing fast. A soft crunch echoed beneath me, a hollow whisper beckoning from the depths. I peered closer, darkness yawning wide in the earth. The terrain was uneven, almost as if it held the weight of countless stories, countless hearts that I could hardly breathe. My heart pounded like a war drum. The fear clawed at my throat. What if I found them? Or what if I found something worse? The questions spiraled like smoke in my mind, filling it with dread, but there it was, a flicker of hope glimmering in the darkness. What if they had left me a message? That faint urgency consumed me, and I reached down, feeling warmth spreading through my fingers. The sensation urged me onward, toward something unknown and exhilarating, yet terrifying. Could I handle the truth? The weight of those years shattered suddenly. The air was electric. My life hung in balance. Would I be ready? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The world around me crackled with a tense energy as I clutched Claire's locket, my mind swirling with memories and possibilities. Each second felt like an eternity as I stood at the edge of something monumental, my heart pounding its rhythm against the backdrop of the trees whispering secrets only they could understand. That moment did not last long. The ground shifted again, pulling me from my reverie. I trembled, anxiety threading through my body. Was this a grave? A hiding place? With a mix of fear and recklessness, I knelt beside the dark opening, my fingertips tracing the soil, feeling the cool earth pressing back against me, urging me to uncover whatever lay beneath. With every ounce of determination I possessed, I began to dig, the dirt yielding underneath my fingernails, an eager reminder of the countless hours spent with Claire and Sophie, building castles in the sand, crafting dreams that glittered brighter than any treasure one could find in the woods. I choked on a sob as nostalgia tugged at my heartstrings, eclipsing the taste of fear. Just as despair threatened to take root, I unearthed and edged something solid, rectangular, and horrifyingly familiar. My breath quickened as I pried it free, pulling the object from its sanctuary. It was a weathered journal bound in fraying leather. Each crack and crease was a testament to the lives it contained. I gasped, grip squeezing tighter around the locket and the journal, knowing this would either heal or shatter me further. As I flipped open the cover, dust motes danced in the air. The pages were yellowed, the ink faded yet still legible. Claire's neat script adorned the first few entries, each written the summer they disappeared. My body trembled as I read the words, ink laden with laughter and secrets. But as the days wore on in the writings, the atmosphere turned darker, shifts in tone mirroring the unsettling energy of that fateful summer. Tears trickled down my cheeks as hope flickered dimly like the dying light of a candle. There were details scrawled, maps of this very forest, locations marked with hastily drawn symbols that mapped out the twisting paths of their adventures. But interspersed among the drawings was something else, something alarming. Mentions of shadows lurking, whispered warnings of voices in the night. Claire wrote of feeling watched, of sensations I had brushed off as mere childhood fears. With each page, a heavy weight settled in my chest. Those initial carefree moments replaced by ominous foreboding. My fingers trembled as I read about their secret plans, shared dreams, the bond they forged to confront the unknown. They were brave, so brave it made my heart ache. But then an unsettling line stopped me cold: if we are not back by twilight, promise to find us. The ink was barely dry, almost trembling with urgency. My stomach twisted, an icy grip of panic twisting tighter. I flung my gaze back toward the ominous hole in the ground. What had happened when they went searching? Had they indeed found something darker, something that claimed them? The journal slipped from my hands, flopping open, and revealed a hastily drawn diagram, a circle in the earth where I now knelt. My breath caught as I traced the lines, realizing this circle was no mere design, it was a map, etched with clarity. This was their last known point, their heart, the very essence of their adventure, of their love for each other, left behind like breadcrumbs for me to follow. As I absorbed the weight of their words, a chill crept up my spine. I could feel it, a presence lurking just beyond my reach. And suddenly, branches snapped nearby, shattering the stillness. My head snapped around, readying myself for what might emerge from the woods. This moment wasn't just a whisper of danger. It was a storm ready to unleash its fury, and I stood unprepared in its eye. The journal's pages fluttered around me, casting fleeting light over the darkness, paper wings carrying the hopes of my sisters, yet I was alone, the weight of their silence crashing against me. My hand instinctively reached for my phone. But silence met me, no signal in these forgotten woods. I could feel adrenaline pumping through my veins. I had to confront whatever awaited me. Yet I hesitated, the only tangible connection to my sisters fluttered just before my eyes, the decision weighed heavily in my heart, longing and dread warring within me. Before I could fully process what lay ahead, the faintest sound caught my ear, the soft rustle of footsteps, the unmistakable crunch of leaves. I felt overwhelmed. I had come looking for answers, but all I found was confusion shadowed by a potential unknown. Then, a voice echoed through the trees, a harmony of familiarity grounding me amidst the rising tide of fear. Help! Please, help us! The plea reached my ears, a chilling renewal of hope and terror intertwined. It sounded like Sophie. She was alive, the echo of her voice propelled me forward, breathing life back into the stories I had thought lost forever. But as I scrambled to my feet, the ground beneath me felt unstable, the stakes higher than ever before. The journal, the locket, me heart, each of them tethered to a truth I may not have been ready to face. That I locked eyes with the abyss, heart racing as I stepped deeper into the forest, shadows flickering with tantalizing mystery threatening to reveal the last hidden truths. Would my sisters guide me while they haunted these woods? Or would they lead me to a confrontation far beyond what I could fathom? With a twisting gut, I stepped forward, ready to chase down the echo of their voices, grasping at frayed strands in the dark, fully aware of the peril that lurked waiting just behind me. The trees loomed like ancient sentinels as I plunged deeper into the woods, each step crunching through dry leaves that whispered secrets and buried memories. Shadows flickered in my periphery, their movements unnervingly alive, creating a dissonance between the rhythm of my heart and the stillness of the forest around me. Sophie's voice lingered in the air, both a beacon and a tether, urging me onward while the suffocating weight of uncertainty wrapped around my chest. "Help us," the plea echoed, clearer each time, reverberating like a heartbeat in my ears, compelling and unnerving. I had thought for a moment that Claire had also been with her, but the hollow anguish in Sophie's voice shattered that notion. This was a fight for survival, not a reunion. I pressed my lips together, steeling myself against the rising tide of emotions. What if I was too late? Would I find her only to lose her again? My fingers clutched the journal against my chest as if it were a talisman, each entry mapping a labyrinthine path of dread and devotion, but in the face of Sophie's desperate cry, the comfort it once provided began to wane. A branch snapped sharply nearby, pulling me from my thoughts, and I froze, sensing a presence lurking, just as Claire had warned in her writings. My heart raced, my instinct flaring with the foundational urge to run, but my heart was anchored by the haunting resonance of my sister's call. "Stay strong, Sophie," I whispered, a mantra fighting against the rising panic. I had followed the map from the journal, drawn by the promise of answers, but hope was a fragile thing here, and every rustle of the underbrush sent chills up my spine. Just then, a flicker of movement caught my eye, a shadow darting just out of sight among the tree trunks. I chased it, driven by instinct, each footfall heavy with trepidation. The wildness of the woods began to feel less like a refuge and more like a trap, a living thing that wanted to ensnare me among its twisting roots and dark, brambled corners. Suddenly, I broke through a thicket and found myself staring at a clearing drenched in dappled sunlight. A stark contrast to the looming darkness of the trees. At the center stood a circle, marked on the ground with stones that seemed to pulse with a life of their own, their surfaces glimmering with unseen energy. The journal had detailed a place like this, a sort of ceremonial ground for those who dared venture into the woods, a sacred space for the brave and the foolish. But what had my sisters been doing here? "Help us," the voice came again, more urgent this time. It wasn't just Sophie, there was something else, something lurking below the call, a deeper fear awakening within me. I scanned the perimeter of the clearing, my stomach knotting as the shadows crept closer, just out of reach. As I stepped forward, a glimmer caught my eye, a small, metallic object buried half in the dirt just outside the circle. I knelt to retrieve it, brushing the dirt aside with trembling fingers. It was a pendant, silver, identical to Claire's locket, etched with the same intricate designs. A chill raced through me. Where had this come from? Why was it here, in this sinister space? I lifted my gaze, heart hammering, scanning the trees, convinced the shadows would reveal themselves at any moment. Another step back, and as the pendant swung from my fingers, an aching familiarity washed over me, dragging forth memories of laughter and softness, the warmth of my sister's presence. Could it be that this was all connected? Maybe a sign that Claire had been here, that she was close, or that evil had tainted whatever they had found. Then, before my mind could grasp the implications, the voice rang out again, lesser now but possessing an urgency that pinned me with fear. "Please. You have to hurry." I locked my gaze ahead, drawing breath deep within as I braced myself to confront whatever lay beyond that circle. With deliberate intent, I placed the pendant next to the stones, hoping the act could act as an offering, a signal that said I was ready to face the unknown. At that moment, a sudden gust swept through the clearing, the leaves rustling like whispers, stirring up a sense of foreboding woven tightly into my spine. The shadows congealed, and from them, figures began to coalesce. My heart pounded as I stumbled back, the space vibrating with a cold intensity that froze the air. Then, from the tumultuous shadows, a familiar face emerged. It was Sophie, but she looked different, haunted, as if the forest had carved its despair into her features. Dark shadows clung to her like a second skin. Relief rushed through me, accompanied by a tidal wave of dread. Was she indeed here, or was this a cruel trick of my mind? "There's no time," she cried out, her eyes wide with fear. "We're running out of time." The next moment, she reached toward me with a frantic urgency, and in the blink of an eye, the ground trembled beneath us, an unseen force surging from deep below. I caught a glimpse of the dark abyss swallowing the ground, pulling us closer, and with a final scream, Sophie vanished, her hand slipping through mine like smoke, frozen in place. Horror surged through me. "No!" I yelled, but there was no reply, only the echoing silence mingled with my whirling thoughts. Despair flooded me like a rising tide, the fear that I had stepped too far, that I would lose her too, struck hard as silence reigned in the clearing. The shadows stirred, morphing ominously, their presence undulating with power. I could almost feel their hunger, an unspeakable force gathering just beyond the limits of the light. My breath caught in my throat. I was left standing in that clearing, alone once more, forced to confront the reality of the darkness that threatened to consume everything I held dear. The clearing was no longer a sanctuary, it was a crucible. And as the shadows began to close in, darkness surged within me. I knew that I had to decide then and there. I would either fight for the souls that haunted this forest, or I too would become one of them. As the chill crept through the air, I stood ready to face whatever awaited, clawing desperately for hope amidst the looming shadows, the unwavering pull of tragedy. Would I betray the promise of reunion? Or would the call of the forest become my final resting place? The forest seemed to sigh around me, the air thick with the spectral weight of secrets. I could feel the pull of the shadows, twisted tendrils sifting through the clearing like smoke, and the echoes of Sophie's voice blended hauntingly with the rustling leaves, urging me to reclaim what had been lost. But her absence clawed at my heart, an emptiness widening like an abyss, leaving only a visceral panic in its wake. Determined to find her, I stepped back toward the ceremonial stones, drawing my breath tight. Every instinct told me to flee, but my sister's image burned vividly in my mind, her wide eyes and frantic, desperate call. We're running out of time. I could almost feel her presence lingering in the air, urging me forward. Please, return. I whispered into the shadows, clutching the pendant as if it could somehow bridge the gulf that now separated us. What dark power had claimed her? What had happened in this unholy space that bound my sisters to this forest? As if in reply, the earth beneath me trembled once more, and shadows shifted, ebbing and flowing with a growing intensity. From their dance, a silhouette began to materialize, a figure draped in darkness, its edges blurred and undefined, moving with a slow, deliberate grace. My heart raced with fear, the primal urge to run clawing at the back of my mind, but I stood firm, the weight of my sister's fates pressing upon me. Who are you? I demanded, my voice echoing softly in the stillness. The figure paused, then stepped from the shadows, revealing a face that sent a jolt through my very core, a face like mine, but marred by an anguish that rippled from deep within. Elena, it breathed, and with that word, the weight of the world seemed to lift, if only slightly. I am here to guide you, but you must tread carefully. The forest is hungry, and life here blurs between the living and the lost. My breath caught, recognition washing over me. This was not Sophie, nor was it Claire. No, I whispered, backing away as dread unfurled. I felt as if I were teetering on the precipice of an unspeakable truth, one that threatened to unravel everything I believed. What have they done to you? I trembled, horrified, as the figure of Alananathar's sister perhaps, emerged encased in shadows, her features luminous yet intermittently fading like a flickering candle. She stepped closer, and I could see now that she bore the same locket around her neck, a tangible connection that haunted me more than anything. That I came here for answers, to find them, just as you have. Elena's voice resonated with a longing that pulled at the threads of my heart. But this forced it has a way of consuming all that ventures too deep. What do you mean? Are you? I will guide you, Elena interjected, her eyes reflecting a sorrow I felt echoing in my own heart. But each step you take will come at a price. The forest demands payment for what it reveals. As her words sank in, memories flashed through my mind, happy laughter entwined with agonizing silence. Sophie, Claire, images of innocence now distorted by grief. I'll do anything, I declared, desperation overtaking hesitation. I need to know where they are, what happened to them. Then you must make a sacrifice, Elena said solemnly, her form shimmering as the shadows around us pulsed to life. Something precious, something the forest can claim as its own. Only then will you uncover the truth that dwells beneath its roots. My breath hitched, every fiber of my being recoiling at the thought of losing anything more, but the thought of Sophie being trapped in this void, or worse, forever lost, stung harder than the sharpest sorrow. What could I give? What would I be willing to surrender to save my sisters? Images of their faces filled my mind, fierce and proud, the echo of our childhood binding us like an unbreakable thread. Slowly, the realization dawned. It wasn't just something material I would be given, it was a piece of my heart, an enduring tether to my past, an offering that would forever change me. Please, if it will save them, I'll do it, I said, my voice firm but laced with uncertainty. Each syllable like a contract binding me to the unknown. As I spoke, the ground beneath shifted again, and Elena's presence flickered, her form stabilizing, drawing closer. Then prepare yourself, Elena. The time for reckoning is upon us. Suddenly, a loud crack filled the clearing, like thunder striking from the sunlit sky, plunging me into darkness as the shadows stretched, reaching for me with hungry hands. I could feel their force tugging at my soul, the forest melding into one chaotic blur. In that moment, everything spun out of control, and with a final grasp at the pendant, the last remnant of my sister's legacy, I was released from the grasp of that shadow, plunging headfirst into a swirling void, my heart gripping the fear of losing not just my sisters, but myself. Amidst the chaos, a haunting whisper reached me once more. Find them, Elena. The truth is buried beneath the shadows, but the cost will leave scars that may never heal. Then darkness enveloped me completely, the last echo of hope fading into nothing as the ground beneath my feet vanished entirely, leaving only uncertainty and a promise that nothing would ever be the same again. The void pulled and twisted, my body weightless, disoriented in the absence of light. Fear coursed through me, threatening to swallow whole the resolve I had just mustered. The haunting whispers faded, and in their place surged a cacophony of guttural wails. My sisters' voices echoed around me, entwined with the raspy groans of the forest itself. Then, abruptly, I fell hard into a fragile mass of damp earth. I lay still for a moment, battered by confusion and dread. As I pushed myself up, the world began to materialize anew. Dappled sunlight broke through the trees, illuminating an otherworldly realm. I found myself in a grove, vibrant green moss cushioning my knees while ancient trees loomed like sentinels above me. Yet an ominous vibe clung to the air, the warmth of sunlight battling against the chilling realization that I was ensnared in a place both beautiful and terrifying. Shadows pooled at the edges of this refuge, a stark reminder of the darkness lurking just beyond visibility. Elena. A voice called, sharp with urgency. It was a voice I recognized, though distorted by the oppressive weight pressing down on my soul. I spun around, scanning the grove, and saw her, Sophie. For an eternal moment, disbelief gripped me, followed by pure elation. Sophie! I cried, scrambling to my feet, a surge of cautious hope igniting deep within me. But as I rushed toward her, my joy dulled. Sophie stood with a distorted smile, her eyes glazed like a star that had dimmed too far, an emptiness swirling beneath the surface. Elena, you shouldn't have come, she warned, her voice laced with somber weight. This place isn't what you think. It's a trap. Is Claire with you? Where is she? My pulse quickened as I searched her gaze for reassurance, for some glimmer of the sister who had loved fiercely, who had fought to keep us together even when darkness threatened to divide us. We can't leave. The forest won't let us. Sophie's voice trembled, the calm facade shattering as the shadows flickered around her. I've tried, Elena. So many times. But every escape leads right back to this cursed grove. Please, you have to turn back. No. I shouted, desperate tears stinging my eyes. I can't leave you here, Sophie. I'm going to find a way to bring you home. The shadows thickened, encasing Sophie within their restless embrace, her figure growing dimmer, flickering like a dying flame. It feeds on regret, on longing. It thrives on us. You mustn't fall into its heart. If you do, it will take you too, she whispered, her voice now barely a breath, each word heavy with the weight of truth I feared to confront. With trembling hands, I reached out toward her. I'll make them let you go. I promise. Elena, she rasped, fear creeping into her eyes as her hand dissolved into shadow. Whatever price you pay to save us, it will take a piece of you away. Do you understand? Just as I was about to answer, the air rippled around us, and a low growl reverberated through the grove. From the corners of my vision, dark figures emerged, the lost souls of the forest, their longing and despair wrapping around me like a cold shroud. The sight ignited a visceral panic, their haunting wails filling the space, echoing my own dread. Please, I begged, stumbling backward, my heart racing. Where is Claire? I have to find her, but Sophie shook her head, her gaze a mix of sorrow and regret. Once you know the truth, there may be no way back. Are you sure you want to proceed? The forest is not forgiving, it will test the very core of your soul. I trembled, the dawning realization of what this journey would cost pressing heavy on my heart. My mind danced with possibilities, but in a wave of intuition, I understood that the only way out was to confront the darkness. In going to save you, I insisted, my voice steady despite the terror clawing at my confidence. I won't let you go back into the shadows. Whatever it takes. As I turned back toward the grove's exit, a piercing scream sliced through the air, a sound all too familiar. Claire. My breath caught as dread flooded my senses. No. I cried, chasing the echoes. Claire, Elena. The voice called again, filled with raw pain, urging me to hurry. The shadows around Sophie thickened, pulling at her, and I felt the undeniable tug of the forest trying to claim me as well. With one last lingering look at my sister, I bolted into the darkness, following the desperate cries of Claire, my heart pounding in rhythm with the fear taking root deep within. The path twisted and turned, leading me further into the heart of the forest, where the shadows dared to take shape, curling around me like ghostly whispers. But the further I ran, the more elusive Claire's voice became, slipping away like smoke, and I couldn't shake the feeling that with each step forward, I was losing more than I could afford to give. The air grew thick with despair, and as the cries faded into silence, the shadows swallowed my resolve. I was left with a chilling question that resonated deep within me: was saving my sisters worth the life I was ready to surrender? The forest's laughter echoed behind me as I stumbled deeper into its haunting embrace, when suddenly, a figure emerged before me, ethereal and strikingly familiar. Another sister lost? Or perhaps something darker yet? And in that moment, uncertainty seeped into my very being, clutching at my heart with icy fingers, reminding me that the truth I so desperately sought might unravel everything I believed. The forest enveloped me, branches clawing at my arms, pulling me deeper into its murky depths. My heart raced, pounding against my ribs as the weight of uncertainty pressed down on me. I caught glimpses of movement out of the corner of my eye, shadows darting between trees, ghostly figures haunting the periphery of my vision. Each step felt heavier, my thoughts muddled, as if the very essence of the woods conspired against me, siphoning away my strength. Claire. I shouted, my voice cracking, desperation spilling forth. The silence that followed was suffocating, amplifying the thrum of my heartbeat. As I pushed forward, an unsettling realization began to churn within me. The forest seemed alive, an entity with a pulse and a mind of its own, bending my will, trying to manipulate my thoughts. And then, just ahead, a flicker of movement caught my eye. My breath caught, a glimmer of hope igniting within the storm of despair. Claire. I called out again, rushing toward the silhouette. The figure turned, a woman with features I knew all too well. My pulse quickened, but as I got closer, the relief that had surged within me transformed into confusion and sorrow. It was not Claire. Elena, said the figure, her voice a haunting echo that both soothed and terrified me. It was Laura, the sister we had lost so long ago, a memory wrapped in fragments of sunlight and regret. You shouldn't be here, she whispered, her eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light, yet shadowed by something darker lurking beneath. Laura? How is this possible? I stammered, caught between disbelief and longing. I thought you were gone. Her smile was bittersweet, as if her lips danced on the edge of sorrow. I was lost to the forced sacrifice, as are we all. But you can change that. Change what? My voice was hushed, reverberating through the tension hanging in the air. What do you mean? The forest feeds on our desires, our regrets. It keeps me here, in this echo of what once was. She took a step closer, and I felt the chill washing over me. To save Claire and Sophie, you must confront your own darkness, Elena. Do you have the courage to face the price? The shadows flickered, pulsing around us, tightening their grip as Laura's transparency began to glitch, a flickering reminder of her tenuous existence. Don't let it take you, she urged, desperation threading through her gaze. The forest thrives on the bonds of loss, your heart is its feast. You must find the center, only there can you break its grasp. The scream echoed again, raw and visceral, slicing through the air, Elena. This time the voice was clearer, more distinct. Claire's. Please, I need to find her. I begged, realizing with a dawning horror that each moment I hesitated, the shadows pressed tighter, whispering temptations of despair into my ear. Laura's eyes glimmered with something almost like hope. Then run. Follow the heart of this place, but know that you must not turn back. The forest will test your will. I cannot guide you further. Without thinking, I turned and dashed anew into the remnants of twilight, the air thick with dimming light. Infernal whispers chased me, beckoning me to relent and surrender. But with each heartbeat, I felt the tendrils of desperation entwine tighter around my soul, not from a desire to escape, but to rescue the sisters I loved. The trees twisted and moaned as if pained by my determination, but I pressed forward, fueled by an unbearable sense of urgency. Each step felt like running through molasses, the shadows shifting and whispering, each syllable barely discernible, yet their intent unmistakable, a symphony of despair. The echo of Claire's voice grew stronger until it shattered into silence, replaced by a soft, haunting lullaby that seemed to wrap around me like a familiar embrace. I stumbled into a clearing, and what lay before me sent chills down my spine. At the heart of the grove sat an enormous tree, gnarled and ancient, its roots twisted like serpents buried deep into the ground. Silvery light spilled from the cavity at its base, illuminating the clearing with a heavenly glow that felt both comforting and sinister. As I approached, the ground pulsed beneath my feet, thrumming like a heartbeat. In that moment, I understood this was the heart of the forest, the very essence that held my sisters captive. The shadows that clung to me thickened and writhed, swirling around the light, wrestling against its brilliance. Elena. Claire's voice cried out again, sharp with anguish, the sound weaving through the air like a plea. Help me. I froze, torn between the dazzling light and the suffocating darkness. The forest was alive, a predatory force feeding on my turmoil. I could feel its pressure mount, an insidious heavy dread pressing against my chest. It wanted me to succumb to its despair or to battle it in the face of unwavering love. The ground trembled as the shadows surged toward the heart of the tree, flowing like ink spilled into water, swirling dangerously. I saw them, the faces of my sisters trapped within, their expressions distorted in a web of pain and sorrow. No! I shouted, reaching out to them with everything in me. I won't let it take you. But as I stepped closer, the ground shook violently, and the shadows surged forward, their rasping whispers turning into terrifying screams. In that moment, I was faced with a decision, to reach for the light that promised salvation, or to try and pull them back from the abyss that threatened to swallow us whole. And just as I made my choice, a blinding light enveloped me, the darkness roaring in protest. A voice, bold and overpowering, boomed from everywhere and nowhere. Only one can escape this fate. Which will it be? The world around me shattered like fragile glass, forcing me into the depths of choice as tension pulled taut in the moment, a decision that would redefine my existence and send reverberations through the very fabric of everything I had once loved. My heart raced, but I steeled myself for the unknown, ready to face the consequences of my own desires, as my sister's fate hung in the balance. The glow enveloped me, a fierce warmth that oddly contrasted the chilling sense of impending loss. As I delved deeper into the luminous sanctum, the trees around the clearing began to dissolve into silhouettes, their sharp outlines softening under the light's embrace. Yet it was the faces of my sisters, I could see them clearer now, the faces I had lost years ago etched in the darkness that clawed at my heart. Claire! Sophie! I shouted, desperation giving strength to my words. Here, they were within reach, tied to this strange tree whose roots twisted like 1,000 yearning hands. And yet, they were still trapped within the shadows. I could hear their cries, a fractured symphony of anguish that twisted the very air. "Elena, please." Claire's eyes were wide, filled with a mix of terror and hope. "You can't leave us here. Help us," they were calling me as if I were their lifeline, but the forest's power buzzed around me, a whisper laced with urgency. It was as if time had curled back on itself, and I was a child again, paralyzed by the threat of losing them once more. The weight of their pleas pressed down on me, causing my knees to buckle slightly. The voice that shredded through the air echoed again, resonating deep within my soul, "Only one can escape this fate. Which will it be?" A disquieting calm seeped into the moment, forcing me to confront my own heart amidst the chaos. I glanced at them, my beloved sisters, trapped in anguish as the shadows weaved around them, attempting to cloak their identity, their essence, in a veil of despair. That I took a breath, grounding myself in that tremor of courage. "No. I won't choose," I shouted defiantly. "You're wrong. I won't give in to your demands." The shadows writhed, momentarily quieted by my outburst. I could feel the air shift, the heart of the forest vacillating between intensity and pause. For a moment, it felt as though the light brightened in response to my defiance, illuminating Claire and Sophie as if reassuring me that hope was not yet lost. "Elena." Claire's voice was soft yet firm, almost tangible, urging me to listen. "You've always been the one to stand strong. Don't let fear choose for you." But another part of me faltered, my wounds and regrets accumulating into heavy stones weighing upon my heart. The truth of our shared past ignited how I had failed them once, how the forest had entwined our lives together in a web of separation and sorrow. "Laura said," I began, recalling her haunting presence, her warnings. "She said that this forest is fed by desire and regret. I must confront that to free you." "Then do it, Elena." Sophie gasped, her breath breaking, eyes pleading. "Confront it. Don't let this darkness hold you. We believe in you." My throat tightened. Belief. It was a fragile thread spun from love and hope, woven through the fabric of our shared story. I shuffled slowly, instinctively edging away from the tree's dazzling glow, standing just at the precipice of that radiant light while facing the darkness. "Stay with me. Whatever pulls you apart, whatever haunts you, remember it. Share it." I urged them, my heartbeat quickening under the weight of my decision. "We are stronger together, and I can't let you go." Once more, as I focused on the darkness coiling around them, scenes from our shared past flooded my mind, laughter drifting through a sunlit garden, evenings spent telling stories, moments of heartache. Those memories, fragile, yet fierce, coalesced into a barrier against the shadows. Yet as I stood there, the forest trembled around me, an angry shudder that threatened to consume everything in its path. The shadows surged toward me as if angered by my resolve, just as the light grew brighter, pulsating fiercely, begging me to take a side. "Elena." Claire's voice broke through, now frantic. "Choose us, please. We need you." The anguish in their voices reverberated within me, the weight of loss pressed down heavy. I grasped my heart, feeling the quiet flames of anguish, and a small ember of hope ignited. "I choose all of you," I cried out, lifting my hands toward the shadows and light alike. "I refuse to be defined by regret or fear. We are a family, and love cannot be diminished." The forest hissed, shadows twisting violently as my declaration rang out. I felt the ground beneath me tremble as if acknowledging the power of my choice. But just as the pulse of the clearing intensified, a new chill washed over me. That a piercing scream echoed from the depths of the shadows, chilling my bones. The faces of my sisters flickered violently, caught in the crossfire between the advancing darkness and the radiant light. "No. Don't!" I shrieked, reaching out for them, and then a sudden crack ripped through the air. The gnarled branches of the ancient tree splintered, releasing a surge of dark energy that eclipsed everything, threatening to consume me in its wrathful embrace. My vision blurred, and in that whirlwind of chaos, I glimpsed something, a figure emerging from the shadows. It was Claire's outline, pulling away from the dark void. "Elena. Please." She begged, the clarity of her eyes fading as the shadows clung tighter, pulling her back into their cold embrace. "Clara." I screamed, voice raw, fighting against the monstrous tide that in that suffocating moment, I realized something that made my heart drop into an abyss. I had unleashed a force greater than I had anticipated, and in this chaos, I was losing everything all over again. As I lunged forward, desperate to save them, the reality loomed before me like a haunting specter. A choice had been made, and its consequences were far more profound than I could ever have imagined. The forest roared, a cacophony of whispers and wails that swirled around me, wrapping tighter than the darkened tendrils and snaring Claire and Sophie. My heart thudded in defiance against the chaos, each beat echoing my determination. No. I won't let you take them. I cried, flailing against the undulating shadows, wielding the fragility of hope like a weapon. In an instant, the air shifted. A gust of wind whirled through the clearing, a cool breath that carried the scent of wildflowers, igniting the memories of summers long past. I could almost hear the laughter of my sisters mingling with the hum of nature, an orchestra of joy that momentarily lightened the oppressive dread weighing on my chest. Focusing on the warmth of those memories, I gritted my teeth and took a step forward. Every fiber of my being screamed for me to retreat, to surrender to the shadow's allure, but I pressed on, my desire to save them burning brighter than the encroaching darkness. Together! I shouted, as if my voice alone could bridge the chasm that threatened to swallow us whole. We are more than this. To my astonishment, the shadows hesitated, pulsing as if caught in an internal struggle, and I seized the moment. I choose love. I cried, amplifying the resolve in my heart. With that declaration, I felt the forest shift beneath my feet, the full spectrum of my emotions pouring forth anguish, regret, yearning, but above all, an enduring love that transcended even the darkest sorrow. The darkness recoiled, weaving and writhing as if trying to grasp hold of my sisters, yet at the same time pulled away from my conviction. Claire and Sophie's forms flickered erratically, caught in a latent struggle between the polar forces. Desperation flooded my veins, and I extended my arms wide, channeling every positive memory, every ounce of belief I had in our connection. Remember us. Remember the joy. Remember the love. I called out, urging Claire and Sophie to grasp that lingering thread between us. Don't let it go. In that moment, the brightness of the forest swelled, a tide of light rushing forth, washing over the ground and sending sparkles of radiance spiraling through the air. In the midst of the brilliance, I glimpsed a flicker of movement. The roots of the tree trembled, as if awakening to some inner truth, and I felt an undeniable shift in the energy surrounding us. The shadows, momentarily evaded by the light, shifted again, and something new stirred within them. A figure began to emerge, cloaked in the obscurity. Instinctively, an icy dread seeped through me as I recognized the silhouette. Laura. I breathed, disbelief mingling with fear. Her presence drew nearer, a ghostly figure woven from the very fabric of the darkness. Elena, she began, her voice hauntingly melodic. You're allowing them to chain you. Don't you understand? This love you cling to, it only feeds the shadows. No. I protested, shaking my head vehemently, but without the weight of faith grounding my resolve. Doubt coursed through me like poison. You're wrong. There's strength in love. She smirked slightly, twisting the edge of her lips into something that made my stomach churn. Strength often comes at a price, dear sister. Remember your choices. Every wish, every regret is a thread that ties you to this place. That I swallowed hard, torn between the comfort of her words and the weight of truth they bore. My thoughts chaotically spun, churning memories and feelings like a tempest. Could she truly hold the key to everything that had transpired? Release them, I demanded, pointing to my sisters, who were now weaving in and out of both realms. Confusion etched across their fragile faces. Laura chuckled, a sound that rang like shattered glass. Release them? Or perhaps you should consider what they would have done if the roles were reversed. Your precious memories are shackles as much as they are salvation. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted through the clearing, pulling all focus back to Claire and Sophie. Standing at the heart of that radiant light, my sisters shimmered like stars, but their faces wore the marks of despair. Elena! Sophie cried, her voice reverberating in my soul. Don't listen to her. Remember who you are. And it hit me then. Laura had always stood as a guardian of our past, wavering on the edges of our memories, but her essence was steeped in bitterness and division. My sisters believed in me, believed in something beyond the shadows that Laura thrived upon. I squeezed my eyes shut, forcing myself to confront the torrent of emotions raging inside me. "You aren't my sister anymore," I roared, the words bursting from me like fire. "You're a manifestation of my fears and I reject that." With those words, the ground beneath me trembled, and the trees began to shift once more, the roots vibrating with energy as if echoing my defiance. The air thrumming with palpable tension, I felt a surge of warmth explode in my chest. Suddenly, I caught sight of a flicker and unexpected light piercing through the chaos surrounding us. It was a glimpse of our garden, that sacred place where laughter once reigned, where love was woven into every bloom. We were happy together. I shouted, focusing all my energy toward that fleeting image. That is what anchors us, nothing else matters. But at that very moment, the shadows roared back, an inaudible but tangible scream filling the air, pulling harder at the fabric around us. I could feel my sisters stretching toward me, and as I reached out, a startling realization shook me to my core. In that confusion, in all my resolve, I had unwittingly let fear into the equation, intertwining myself within the very fabric of despair that threatened our fate. The light around us flickered ominously as I felt a great tug, the forest itself seemed to sigh, and evil laughter snaked through the trees, leaving me paralyzed in horror. "Elena!" Claire cried one last time, her voice laced with terror as the very ground beneath us began to splinter. "Help us!" And then, as my heart cracked wide open, revealing the fissures of my deepest fears, I heard a horrifying revelation. Laura was not just a shadow, but an embodiment of my own darkness that refused to let go, threatening to drag us into the abyss. "Fight it!" I begged, my own voice betraying the depth of my uncertainty. But as the shadows engulfed everything, even my resolve began to waver, leaving me with the unshakable horror of understanding that the cost of love was far more harrowing than I'd ever imagined. The shadows writhed around us, greedily consuming the light I had summoned, twisting it into forms sharp enough to pierce the heart. I felt my grip on reality slipping, weighed down by Laura's bitter words echoing in my mind. The pulsing dark seemed to devour my tenacity, each heartbeat a step closer to total despair. "Elena!" Claire's voice faltered, strained with fear, and it sent a fresh jolt of desperation through my veins. The ground beneath us heaved as if mourning the loss of our light. "We can fight it together. Don't you remember?" I whimpered, my voice trembling at the inundation of memories surfacing, each joyful moment outshone by the fears that had festered in my heart. "How can I? Everything is spinning out of control. Look deeper, sister." Sophie pleaded, her voice shaking as she fought against the pull of shadow around her. "You know us. You know what we've endured. Remember our bond." I closed my eyes, desperately trying to tap into the love and strength that had always given me courage, even when fear poisoned my thoughts. I remembered the whispered late-night secrets shared over hot cocoa, the time we'd laughed until our sides hurt in the garden, and the warmth of their simple, loving presence. But intertwined with those memories was the day of the accident, the day we had been torn apart, or had we? Through the haze of grief, I lost sight of the truth, digging into guilt and helplessness, allowing the darkness to whisper persuasive lies. I had never given myself the chance to recognize my sister's enduring spirit amid the terror of losing them. "Fight back, Elena!" Claire's voice soared above the terror, a flicker of light in my psyche spurring me forth. "You are not just your fears. Your love is a shield. Use it." Beneath the encroaching despair, I felt a shift deep within my soul. I opened my eyes, the flickering light returning, broader and brighter this time, illuminating my sisters' faces, caught between two worlds yet resolute in their determination. I recognized something monumental. Love was not the privilege of absence, it thrived in unity, willing to face fear together. No matter where we are sisters. I yelled, infusing my surroundings with a scream of defiance, a loud proclamation that transcended the shadows. Our bond has always been unbreakable. The ground shook, and the darkness recoiled momentarily. The sensation was exhilarating, it felt like the entire forest held its breath alongside me. Every memory I had of us bore weight, but together, they forged a protective wall of light around us, but just as it seemed hope could flourish, Laura's figure twisted through the chaos, a smirk carved into her ethereal visage. You think you can hide behind laughter? You're only prolonging the inevitable. What if I told you that your love can also be your prison? Her words froze the air, a chilling reminder of all the anguish I had tried to suppress. With the shadows roaring back, I hesitated, battling against the facade she presented. Memories of our childhood washed over me, igniting a sense of resilience that had long been dormant. Perhaps you should remember what happens when you let anger and resentment rule over joy. And in that moment of fierce conviction, I summoned all my memories of laughter and joy, feeling the warmth of the sun on our skin, the playful moments in the garden wrapping around me like an embrace. The darkness screeched, rattling, contorting as though threatened by the light only I could summon. But then the earth lurched violently, displacing my footing. It sent fresh terror coursing through my veins. Elena! Claire cried again, her voice splintering under the weight of the shadows. The roots are twisting around us. I looked down to see the earth itself had become an extension of the chaos, jagged cracks splitting the ground, like the divided thoughts swirling within me. The very foundation of our memories frayed. Stay with me. I cried, confidence faltering. We will hold on to each other. I reached for Claire and Sophie, their hands grasping mine, intertwining our fingers tightly as we faced the encroaching abyss together. The connection surged me. Love for them seemed to brighten the growing darkness, a scorching beacon in the midst of confusion. But then, a voice rang out amidst the tumult. It pierced through my resolve, delivering a visceral reminder. Remember what you buried, Elena. Ignoring it won't change the truth. You fled like a coward when the shadows took them. It was Laura's voice again, but it mingled with the whispers of the forest, deeper, more haunting, peeling away layers of my denial. Every regret brought forth a fresh wave of pain, the weight of my abandonment settling in my chest. I wasn't just losing my sisters, I had been losing myself to fear and uncertainty for years. Stop it. I screamed, tears cascading down my cheeks as I fought against the tide of darkness threatening to drown me once more. You will not take them from me. Your bitterness won't chain me. I squeezed my eyes shut, letting the flood of emotion break through as my heart split wide open. The memories came flooding back, honest and raw, the laughter, the tears, the love that wrapped around us, forming our identity. The bond we had forged was not just a memory, it was a foundation meant to ground us wherever we would go. As I opened my eyes again, the flicker of hope surged back to life, igniting something fierce within me. I could see the light vibrating through Claire and Sophie, battling against the roots pulling us deeper into despair. And though the odds felt insurmountable, I knew we could face it together, stronger because of the paths we had walked. But just as our connection began to fortify, an unexpected sound ripped through the chaos, a snap from above. I turned, dread coiling in my stomach as I caught sight of the ancient tree bending unnaturally, branches twisting like sinister fingers reaching toward us. Now! Laura cried, urgency in her tone, but it was not regret. I heard it was an invitation to surrender. You can join me here. All the pain can finally end. Embrace what you fear most. And before I could even process the weight of her words, I felt a heavy swell beneath my feet. The ground began to collapse, splintering apart like shattered dreams, and I understood in that moment that love and loss were not separate but entwined threads of my existence. It was then that the true horror struck me, a chilling realization of my sister's fate hidden in ways I hadn't anticipated. Elena. They called, fear rocketing back into their voices as the world tilted dangerously. I had fought against the shadows, but now they threatened to engulf us in a final, irrevocable descent. With my heart racing, the last image of our garden flickered through my mind, its vibrant colors punctuated by laughter. And then the earth groaned beneath us, ready to swallow everything whole. I had already lost so much, but if I let go now, I could lose everything I had ever known. With one last desperate grasp, I cried out, no. We will not be lost. But the abyss echoed back, unraveling us into darkness as the very roots threatened to swallow the last vestiges of my sisterly love whole, and I was left clinging to the realization that, though connected by love, the truth about our fate remained dark and uncertain, lurking just beyond reach. The shadows around me convulsed violently, their insidious energy pulling away at the foundation of my resolve. With my sister's voices echoing in the darkness, I skidded back, fighting against the encroaching void that sought to consume us. "I refuse to let you take them," I shouted, rallying against the very breath of despair that felt as though it were stealing life from my limbs, but even as I stood against the tide, doubt seeped through the cracks of my heart, whispering poison into my thoughts. What if Laura was right? What if love was nothing more than a weakness, a tether that would ultimately destroy us all only to feed this insatiable forest? Then, the world shifted again. I felt it in my bones, the forest echoing with ravenous hunger. The branches above twisted and writhed, their sharp peaks poised to strike as the once warm light wavered like a candle fighting against the gale. But from the deepest recesses of that shadow-haunted space, a fierce cry rang out, an unmistakable melody that struck against the coldness that had settled in my soul. "Elena. Remember who we are." Claire's voice carved through the tumult, steady and fierce like the spark of a flame against the night. "We are warriors of hope. We are sisters." I grabbed onto her words, a lifeline anchoring me while the chaos threatened to pull me further into the depths. My heart surged at her call, a wave of warmth crashing over me. Yes. I was not just an insignificant shadow cast between the light and darkness, I was Elena, their sister, bound with love that had the power to set us free. A flickering image bloomed in my mind, our garden splashed with sunlight, petals unfurling like the fragile dreams we once harbored. The laughter we shared echoed around, a chorus of joy ringing with the wholeness of our childhood untouched by regret. "I remember," I cried, my voice a beacon of light amidst the encroaching gloom. The shadows shivered at my proclamation, hesitating as if they too were drawn to that ancient bond. I breathed deep, filling my lungs with courage, gathering the vital essence of all we had endured together. The anger, the sorrow, the love all woven together, stronger than any bitterness that threatened to ensnare us. "We are not afraid. We will not yield," the forest shrieked in dismay, its voice an amalgamation of lost souls screaming against the realization our love offered, a fragmented mirror reflecting the echoed heart of despair that clung to us all. But as the shadows flickered, they began to draw back in a perceptible retreat. "Love is our legacy," I shouted, reinforcing the invisible shield we had built together, a fortress forged from memories of laughter and camaraderie. Suddenly, a crack cascaded through the air, splintering the silence, as roots surged and twisted, clawing at the edges of our existence. But with a surge of energy grounding our connection, I took a step forward, reaching desperately for my sisters. "You are not alone," I called, stretching out my hand, weaving the light of our love into the tapestry of shadows engulfing us. Claire's silhouette surged forth, glimmering like a distant star captured in the folds of dusk. I felt the heat of recognition wrap around me, her spirit connecting with mine. "Elena," she gasped, her eyes shimmering with a fierce defiance that radiated from deep within. Together, side by side, we formed a circleim, Claire, Sophie, the shimmering light of our bond chasing the shadowy tendrils of our fears. The air crackled with an electric energy, resonating with the truths we had learned, that we were bolder together than apart, our love stronger than any darkness that lingered. "Remember, sisters," I urged, focusing my thoughts, letting the magnitude of our shared experiences fuel my resolve. "Together we can break this curse. Together, we are unstoppable." In a glorious moment, the pulsating light surged, cascading around us like a wave, our spirits intertwining into an iridescent force, emboldening us beyond the confines of despair. I could feel Claire and Sophie beside me, their strength merging with mine, crafting a tapestry of memories that pushed against the shadows. And then, in one synchronistic motion, we lifted our hands, bright against the darkness, and the ground around us exploded with luminous energy. The entire forest seemed to reel back, the moment thriving with balance as our combined strength collided with forces that had long sought to tear us apart. The roots began to retreat, collapsing back into the earth, and the darkness wailed in agony, desperately scrabbling to hold on to what it had consumed for so long that I closed my eyes and released everything, all fear, regret, and anguish gathered within me. Our love pulsed like a heart-long thought, still, synchronized as if powered by an eternal flame, pushing back against the forest that had held us captive for too long. The shadows skittered away, unveiling the brightness that flickered beyond, and in that heartbeat of clarity, I glimpsed a path. My heart soared, the truth becoming a brilliant compass. This was no longer about merely escaping, it was about understanding, about confronting the truth rooted deep within. Love could exist alongside pain if only I allowed it. Sisterhood prevailed, tethered by soul-deep bonds, leading us toward the expanse of light. Let go of this darkness, I commanded, feeling their energy revive me. We were the authors of our fate. I would write our story anew, where love reigns over loss, defiance shrouds despair, and life triumphs over shadows. And as I stepped into the radiant light, my heart roared with joy and certainty. The remnants of the forest fell away, the cries turning into whispers of rejoicing spirits released from their anguish. In that burst of shimmering brightness, I felt a final pull before the light enveloped me entirely, the essence of my sisters merging into a harmonious melody that resonated through the very air. Each heartbeat almost echoed the truth that while loss had marked our paths, I now carried their essence within me, forever lit with love. Bright light surrounded us, cocooning the fragments of our spirits, and there, I finally saw them full of grace, whole and radiant as we stood together. In that moment of unity, I whispered, "We did it. Together," and beneath the whispering leaves of the woods that had once kept us captive, I understood one eternal truth: love is the bridge we cross, forgiveness the passage, time, our ally. The scars may linger deep within, but they remind us of the strength we hold, the memories we treasure, echoes of laughter that can never fade. That I hold the weight of my past while standing firm in the present, knowing this journey was just a part of our collective story, and as I breathe in the vibrant rebirth of the woods, I feel my heart whisper, finally free to love again, that we are home. Love is never lost. It transforms and serves as the light in the darkest corners, reminding us that even shadows have their place. Together, we can endure, become forged in the luminous tapestry of resilience that binds us ever closer. I stand with my sisters bound in love, forever.